David Milan completed his second 100 in 2 games before Nick Compton led a recovery for Somerset with an undefeated half-century against his former county Middlesex on the second day of the LV County Championship match at Uxbridge. Milan began the second morning on 90, made out of his side's 211 for 4, and an early boundary saw him close in on his ton. 9 runs had been added to the total when John Simpson, who'd spent 15 balls trying to get off the mark, edged Craig Overton to Marcus Trescothick, meaning that Middlesex had slipped from 203 for 2 to 220 for 5. A glorious cover drive then took Milan to his second 100 in his last 2 games, having made an undefeated 154 against Northamptonshire at Lord's last week. This ton had come off 188 balls, and that was his 20th boundary. It had been a classy knock for the left-hander, and one which was now holding this innings together. Many of Milan's shots were out of the very top drawer, and with his 100 now behind him, he continued to play in the same vein. Paul Stirling also played in an attractive manner as Middlesex tried to get themselves back on top. Thanks to 4 dropped catches on the first day, the home side had been going along rather nicely until 2 wickets fell late in the day before the rain arrived. What Middlesex needed now was a partnership between these two. They put on 59, but then the second new ball saw the back of Milan for 124, Alfonso Thomas finding the edge of his bat, allowing Alex Barrow to clean up behind the stumps. The First Division table, Northamptonshire aside, is extremely tight this year, and every single point is becoming increasingly valuable. Stirling ensured that his side grabbed a third for their batting exploits before the Irishman went to his 50 off his 81st delivery. He'd struck 7 fours in what was a fine knock from a batsman who is at last getting some opportunities to show that he is much more than a T20 blaster of a cricket ball. He was receiving some good support from Toby Rowland-Jones, a man whose batting has come on leaps and bounds this summer. These two helped carry the total to 319. But then 3 wickets fell in quick succession to balance this game up once more. On 56, Stirling didn't get enough bats behind a defensive shot to Overton and was bowled, something he was not at all happy about. Next ball, Overton produced a delivery which was simply too good for Tim Murtagh, who lost his off stump. And after Stephen Finn just about survived the hat-trick ball from Overton, he was bowled by Peter Trigo at the other end for a duck, with the total now reading 328 for 9. Rowland-Jones tried to make the most of a last-wicket partnership with Ravi Patel. He pulled Overton for a 6 to move on to 31, before he tried to repeat the shot, only to send the ball high into the sky and eventually into the gloves of Barrow. Middlesex ended with a score of 338. The par on this ground for a first innings is 478, with Overton taking 4 for 84. Somerset had caught better than they had done on the first day, and it was now Middlesex's turn to miss an opportunity, Trescothick being given a very early life in the slips. Owen Morgan showed how it should be done by holding on to a chance offered by Chris Jones, who departed for a single to give Finn an early success. Finn was bowling with some pace and aggression, and he then had Trescothick taken behind by Simpson after he'd made 14 of the 15 runs on the board. And Alvaro Peterson followed in a similar way off the bowling of Murtagh to leave the visitors in a bit of a mess on 28 for 3. Compton had already survived a loud appeal for an LBW and had nearly run himself out. Middlesex were on top and Somerset needed a response. James Hildreth began it with a couple of boundaries which just eased the pressure a little bit in this all-important contest, one which neither side can really afford to lose. Catches as easy as this one had to be taken then, especially when the man offering the opportunity was Compton, a player who does not give his wicket away easily. Neil Dexter was the unlucky bowler who watched Stirling miss the chance after he'd replaced Morgan at first slip after he'd been stung by a bee. Thanks to that, Compton and Hildreth were able to get a partnership underway, with the latter leading the way. His third 50 of the campaign arrived off his 58th delivery with a single off Murtagh. The batsman had struck 8 fours in his half-century, and he now needed to go on. For a man of such talents, it's been surprising that Hildreth hasn't registered a single 100 this summer, but this was now his chance. But instead he was soon on his way after he picked the wrong length of a ball from Dexter to go on the pull. Hildreth headed off with 53 runs to his name. He dominated a fourth wicket partnership of 75 runs with Compton, who was able to move patiently along to his fourth 50 of the summer, one of which has been converted into 100. This one had taken him 146 balls to compile, and it contained only the 4 boundaries. He was set for the long haul against a county he left back in 2009. Compton and Barrow then played out the rest of the day, which was shortened again by the weather in Uxbridge, although not by too much on this occasion. Compton will be the key man on day 3 as he took his tally of runs to 58 when the players left with the rain coming down. From 28 for 3, Somerset have moved on to a score of 153 for 4, and that leaves them 185 runs behind, with bags of batting still to come. It may be that one session could turn this game, but at the halfway stage, neither side has yet grabbed the initiative.